Test, 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 test. Can you guys hear us? We had a little bit of technical difficulties before the show, but we're here now. What is up, everyone? Welcome into the newest edition of MJT Football. You got the M and the T here. Joe Morley couldn't be with us today, but I'm sure that he may stop by the comment section. Tony Tucker, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Happy birthday to both of our children. We each have a child with a birthday today, so happy birthday to them. But I'm doing great. It's starting to be like full on summertime, you know, where it feels good. The pool is like cold enough to get escape from the heat, which is real nice to go back there. And already started barbecuing. Had chicken and hot links and ribeye steaks on there the other night. Grilled some corn. Tried a new carrot recipe on there. Woo, all good stuff. So my life is fantastic.
Yeah, I will be there next time. So just send a picture of the food, and I'll probably be there somehow in like 20 minutes, even though I live further than that away.
Do 45 minutes away.
It is getting hot. I will agree with you. It's getting hot here too. We just moved further away from LA, if you guys don't know, me and my wife. So we're in the desert now. We're going to have to deal with this 100-degree heat a little bit more often.
Yeah, but AC will take care of it. Life is good.
Oh, yeah.
Having a house, your life increases exponentially.
Oh, I ain't complaining. I'm happy. Yeah. I'll be out there sunbathing on the hot concrete with the dog or something.
Yeah, I just realized I do need to shave. My wife said that I look like a wolf the other day, and I was like, well, that didn't feel like a compliment. So now that I'm seeing myself, I'm like, okay, get your shit together.
Yeah, should howl. Me too, man. My beard's really growing out. Trying to keep it down. Trying to keep it forward. Anyways, we are going to talk football today. Don't worry, y'all. If you guys are tuning in for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications no matter whether it's your first time or not, so that way that you can be here when we go live next time. And I'm going to include that in the clip up this time, Tony, so hopefully we get some more people to, we got a lot of topics to talk about today for y'all, but first, this news just broke. It hit me like a train while I was literally preparing to hop on the live stream today. Jim Brown just passed away. One of the best running backs of all time. Like you were saying in our text thread, lived an insane life as one of the first superstars in NFL history. But I just wanted to put that out there. That news just broke. If anyone has not heard it yet, RIP to Jim Brown. Zero's in the chat. And he said RIP to Jim Brown as well. A legend gone, but never forgotten.
Yeah, I remember, I forget, I was downtown for. I was in LA for something, and he was there, and he was organizing something, and I had no idea what was going on. And then there was just a massive swarm of human beings going in one direction, and I was like, what's going on over there? Because I tend to I go away from all large populations of people when I can. And they're like, oh, Jim Brown's over there. And it was just crazy how the guy had been retired, obviously, at this point. Most of the people never saw him play. They didn't even really see his movies or anything, but just the activist he was, the human being he was, the football player, the man, the father, all those things that people talk about, all the great things. It attracted those people to it. Hundreds of people just rushing over to be like, that Jim Brown is in the vicinity, and they ran to him. And I was like, that's magnetic. It's impressive.
Yeah, and I really have a lot of respect for the players that not only just stayed around the game, but just kind of had a respectable life like Jim Brown of that era, because they literally had the sport in their hands, and it could have went either direction. It could have went south and crashed and burned, or it could have went to where it went and where it is today for us to enjoy and even me make a living off of it. Like, without those guys, none of this probably happens. And I'm talking about the Jim Browns or the Franco Harris's. Big fan of what he did throughout his life. If you go and look at it after football, especially. So yeah, RIP to Jim Brown, absolute legend. Every time we lose a guy from that era, it's really sad. But to reflect on what they did for the younger fans to see it, I think it's cool that they can now see the history. It just sucks they have to die for these youngsters to see it.
Yeah, and I think obviously the NFL Network will put up cool stuff, and we're going to get to hear a lot of people talk and share stories. And I think that's one of the things that I find the best about this time of year is learning more about this game that I love so much, right? Like sitting down and watching the Keenan McCardle and Jimmy Smith duo, because I just remember them as like in my youth, it's like they just took off at one point, this new expansion franchise. And you get to just hear the backstories of how all of those things happened, how it worked out, and how these two guys struggled, were cut from multiple teams multiple times, and then they end up becoming one of the most dynamic duos over a 6-year period. It's like, wait, why do we never mention them when we mention like Harrison and Reggie Wayne, or, like this duo did stuff that nobody else did over a 6-year period. Like they were incredible.
Yeah, nobody talks about it. I'm sure the Browns, they'll probably put something on the uniforms even. I mean, that's how big Jim Brown is to the sport and to their franchise and NFL history.
I would assume the NFL will probably have like some sort of a decal for him.
2 on the chest or something.
Yeah, Bill Russell passed away this past year in the NBA, and everybody has had the 6 on their jersey. The Celtics had the 6 on their floor. It'd be nice if the Celtics could win game 2 and make this a series, make it fun for me to watch. But
don't even get me started on basketball, Tony. I can't get into that topic right now. I can't. Anyways, on to some of the other news that's been breaking around the league that we would like to discuss today with you guys. First, starting off here with a former Colt, former Atlanta Falcon, Matt Ryan. News broke that he is joining the CBS booth as a commentator / media personality, but keeps the crack open to play. And he was very adamant in publicly saying, I am not retiring from playing, but I am going to take this position at CBS. Tony, what are your thoughts with Matt Ryan kind of keeping the door open to return? My only thought is if he does return, let's say for a team that loses their quarterback in a pinch, he cannot be behind a bad line again. That Colts experiment behind that offensive line that also got injured to shreds was awful to watch. I couldn't watch it. And I was a big Matt Ryan fan growing up. Not really like a fan, but just enjoyed seeing the journey with the receivers he had and the tight end he had.
But how much of the offensive line issues do you think were the fact that they had a statue in the backfield? Like, the things that made Matt Ryan great, they just aren't effective anymore. And that's an issue. So, like, what team is he going to come back and play for? Like, what team? Because if you looked around the league and you could bring in anybody to maybe salvage a season, like, I don't necessarily know that I would have him up on that list. Like, I would be trying to trade for guys. If I had, like, let's say you're in a situation, the trade deadline hasn't come. Why wouldn't you be reaching out to some of these teams? Maybe like the Titans, if they have a bad start to the season, what's up with Tannehill? Reaching out to the Vikings, if they have a rough start, what's up with Kirk Cousins? Like, looking around, maybe the Buccaneers are willing to part with at least Baker Mayfield is still young and can move. So I just think that there's a lot better options than Matt Ryan at this point in his career. If he is retired, Matt Ryan had a sensational career. Like, this guy got the nickname Matty Ice because of the excitement he used to provide at the end late in games and put up really great, crazy numbers. Like, he had a tremendous career. Whatever that was with the Colts last year, Mike, we don't need to see that. And would he sign with the Cardinals? Like, that would be a disaster.
I don't know. Look at Silver and Black Legions is saying the 49ers might need him as QB6. I hear what you're saying. I think that he's far past, standing in the pocket and being the quarterback that he was in Atlanta for all those years, especially not the quarterback that he was when he won MVP. But if teams like for example, the 49ers calling Big Ben last year, and I don't know what Big Ben has left in the tank or what he would have brought to the football field. I assume it's more than we saw out of Matt Ryan. But in that offense where he's just can be carried by the entire core, maybe they would think about bringing him in. But I think you're right. They probably would look towards the trade market first. Now, this would piss you off the most. What if we get close to the midseason mark and Bijan is just carrying the Falcons? The Falcons have an amazing record. QB play is obviously lacking, and then Matt Ryan comes into Atlanta now with the stacked offense around him. Return to Atlanta to go over Ritter and Heineke.
What you just said is absolutely ludicrous. He's not better than either one of those QBs right now. And you know what? San Francisco actually is a good destination for him. And the fact that the fact that Kyle Shanahan, who went to a Super Bowl with him, essentially chose Sam Darnold over him. Like I don't know that for sure. We don't know how that's going to shake out. We don't know what the roster is going to look like. Camp battles, all that, whatever. Like, why wouldn't he if he could? And he thought, like, he already knows Matt Ryan can run his offense the way he wants at an elite form where he won an MVP. That was his coordinator that year, right? Was Kyle Shanahan, and they went to a Super Bowl. So he's not going to Atlanta. He's not going to run Arthur Smith's offense. Like, if they hand it off 60 times a game now with Matt Ryan, they better hand it off 71 times. So, like, that's not the answer.
I put this little tick in here. Just tick off Tony with this one.
Yeah, good.
Atlanta I got you.
I will say one last thing on the Matt Ryan situation was when I heard that the CBS deal was announced, the people who were talking about it, they said he was keeping the door open because the Colts still owed him like $40 million. So it wasn't necessarily that he wanted to play, but he can't officially retire,
turn the money away. Yeah.
Then he would be turning down all that money. So it's like, yeah.
That makes more sense on this report. But congrats to Matt for the CBS job. I think he'll be good at that. I really do. He's one of the quarterbacks that has that passion for the game, and I think that he can articulate it in a way that'll be entertaining, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun if he goes more of the route where it's more information, because I like that, right? Where they come in and they make you a little bit smarter and they show you things where you're like, oh, I didn't even know that, or I didn't understand this look, or why the person did that. Like, it's interesting to me. Or you could just be both, and you could be Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez is the best on TV right now. Like, he is so funny and he gives you good information. Mark Sanchez is awesome.
You see this right here? We don't need Matt Ryan, silver and black allegiance. We got the real Mad Max to be our backup now. The real Mad Max, not the fake one that runs around in whatever colors those are. Let's go on to the next topic here, Tony. Speaking of the Raiders, transition to what I would love to talk about with the Raiders. Davante Adams publicly stated that he's unhappy with the offensive direction, but he's going to have to get used to it, and he's going to try and make it work and be optimistic about it anyways. What I think this is suggesting to me is that they are going to be a run-heavy offense. That's what I think Davante Adams is referencing to. Josh Jacobs just had a career year, went nuts. He's also playing on a franchise tag, I believe. They didn't get an extension done for him. So if they're going to run him into the ground, it would be this year. And they got Jimmy G at quarterback, who they know if they ask to drop back too much, simply just isn't going to make it to the end of the season. I think that what this is signaling is if Josh Jacobs is on the board at 12th in your fantasy football drafts, maybe take him.
If he's on the board, yeah, I think Josh Jacobs should probably be somewhere in the top 7 picks, right? Like, because he's going to get that kind of action. And he showed last year he can be a real asset in the passing game. So I don't know why you wouldn't take him inside the top 7 or 8. But as far as like the Davante Adams thing goes, it's just been bad news from the beginning. Like, he wanted to get away and show like, hey, I can win without Rodgers. And he wanted to be in Vegas. He wanted to be with Derek Carr. And they go this route. I think the bigger issue is Jimmy G doesn't push the ball down the field. Like, and that's taking away from Davante's ability to work and do his magic. And, maybe a few times you might have to hang on to it for an extra beat while Davante sets up the corner and then beats him deep across the field, overtime winner against one of the best cornerbacks in the league in Patrick Surtain. Like, that's the kind of stuff that he's used to having there. And if Jimmy G is just sort of, keep the chains moving, dink and dunk, 1 or 2 shots a game, like, I think Davante is just like, I didn't sign up for a 7-10 record and, a 980 catch season.
Yeah. And I think Tay would be a lot more on board if they did go and draft a rookie quarterback at this point, and they did go and get, let's say, C.J. Stroud or whoever they could have gotten. I know C.J. Stroud ended up going 2 overall. Maybe the Raiders would be able to swing a trade or something. I'm starting to think that there are some scenarios where this Vegas team is really stinky at the beginning of the season, and Tay wants out very quickly. And I'm hoping that happens. That would be very entertaining. We're not going to talk landing spots or anything like that, but what do you think about the possibility of him being a guy from now until the trade deadline, let's say, that ends up back on the market again? Trade market.
I definitely think that is in the mindset of who the general manager and the coach are, right? Because they, as much shit as we want to talk about the Raiders or whatever it is, I think that those two guys really are about team first and are trying to build a culture. And if they have somebody who's not fitting in there, they will move on and they'll try and get whatever they can. The smart thing would be for them to handle this way better than they handled the Derek Carr situation. Like, don't make it public that you're moving on. Even if you decide after the trade deadline, you want to move on from Devontae Adams. Don't lower the price tag for this. Like, go out and get a couple of picks for one of the best receivers in the league. And I could see that. I could see mid-season. Hopefully it's a team from the NFC. Like, they're not stupid enough.
I was about to pull the camera in real close and say, hey, Mr. Ziegler, if you trade this motherfucker to the Jets, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm telling you right now. I'm going to lose my mind.
So that to me would be, I couldn't see that. Like, I couldn't see that unfolding, like, especially because the Jets already have too many wide receivers already. Like, they're going to have to cut people. But like, I think about the teams that could use him, right? And the Chiefs are one of those teams. They're not going to make a trade to the Chiefs. So then if I start looking around like the NFC, like, what are some contending teams in that area that might be there? And it might be the team you were just shitting on, the Atlanta Falcons. They might look around and go, oh, hey, we could use that on our side. It could be the New Orleans Saints, who also have an aggressive GM and Mickey Loomis, and say, oh, do you want to come play here because Michael Thomas can't stay healthy again?
I'm glad you brought that up, because Silver and Black Legion is saying the issue is with Josh McDaniels, not Ziegler. And I think the issue might just be like, hey, I came here to play with Derek Carr. And I understand if you guys want to try and go out and get an upgrade or make a move for the franchise's success or whatever it is. But you guys went from paying Carr $40 million and didn't want to do that, didn't want to give it one more year with Carr to let the contract kind of work its way towards its end. But you paid and brought Jimmy G in and didn't get anyone in behind him. So, like, what are we even doing here? Why wouldn't we have Carr here? Why go to Jimmy G? It doesn't really make sense. It's not a huge financial save. It's a downgrade, really, as far as who's in the pocket. And I know a lot of people say that Jimmy G is a great teammate and a great leader. I've heard a lot more good stuff about Derek Carr. I've heard stuff about Derek Carr that you almost don't believe, even like with the Henry Ruggs or John Gruden situations of how good of a guy he is.
So I think Jimmy G is a slight upgrade for what Josh McDaniels wants to do. I'd rather have Derek Carr. I think he's a better player, but for what he wants to do, Jimmy G is the guy. It's like, this is my play. This is the read. This is how it's going to unfold. Like, this is the look you see. Your reads are now 3, 1, 2, 3. And if it's this look, then it's 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, you get it. This to me is interesting. What Silver and Black is putting on the screen right here is that he's essentially saying that there's already some sort of like animosity within the GM and the coach. Like, he's speculating that Dave Ziegler came out and says that McDaniels wasn't his coach. He said they were hired at the same time, and it was an interesting scenario. It's like, really? These are the comments you're making? You can't even be on the same page about whether or not you're going to publicly be on the same page?
Yeah, I'm a fan of how the Raiders season is lining up to go down. I really am. We'll see how it goes. Let's go into the next topic here. Let's talk about another guy that is kind of a rival to our Chargers, but not really, in my opinion. Joe Burrow is hinting at taking a not a pay cut necessarily. He didn't say those words, but he wants to help the team out. And the quote that really intrigued me when I heard it, I was like, this seems like a dude that's probably going to have a lot of success in his career if he has this mindset. he said that he thinks the most important part in his negotiation when he's trying to figure out the extension with the Bengals is keeping his teammates around him. And what do I got to do to keep T. Higgins in town? What do I got to do to keep Jamar Chase in town? Because his contract is coming up very rapidly as well. I thought that was something that we almost not expected from Joe Burrow, but we were starting to think like this is something that he probably would do. And we're hoping that Herbert has a similar mindset with his extension. But what's your thoughts on that? Joe Burrow just flat out saying it like, I'm not going to tell you guys anything about my negotiation other than I'm trying to make it so we can keep the team around me.
I think it's like another form of leadership, right? Because there seems to be this pressure that everybody keeps going like, you got to get paid, you got to get yours, you got to get your money, you got to get the biggest bag you can get while you can get it and whatever else. And it's like, but really? Like, because you see a lot of guys who get paid, they don't win, and then they're out of the league and they're unhappy and they go, oh, I just wish I would have won one Super Bowl, you know, like I wish this, I wish that. Well, if you took 40 million or 45 million instead of 55 million, and you could have kept around a few of the guys on the roster that were helping you look good enough to be worth 55 million, then you could have had a greater legacy from a championship standpoint. And I think that at a certain point, it was going to take somebody to step up and go and say this out loud and say, hey, I think it's what's most important to me. Because everybody feels that pressure. They all feel that pressure to be the next man up, to sign the biggest and best deal. And if they decide, like, if you decide you want to have all of this money, I'm not against you having that either. Like, if you want a fully guaranteed $250 million contract, that's fine. But then it might lower the ceiling for what your team can be. And that's part of the deal with it. But I'm not mad at that person. If Herbert comes out and says, hey, I want this, and I'm worth it, and this is what the market says I'm worth, great. I'm all for it. Then get your money. Like, would I prefer that it was in a way where they wouldn't have to cut Keenan or Mike next year because the contracts are outrageous, or they wouldn't have to try to find ways to trade or cut Bosa or Mack or whatever? Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be awesome to keep the team around. It's a business, and he seems to be making what he thinks is a smart business decision. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think that this is honestly a smarter business decision than hitting the table and demanding that you empty your team's bank account to pay me. Because in the long run, who do you think is richer? Tom Brady or whatever quarterback demanded a almost fully guaranteed contract is Tom Brady, because that success is going to create you more money at the end of your career anyways. So you might as well go after that success relentlessly. And yes, make your money, get your big contracts, get your paydays. But a guy like Joe Burrow doesn't have to be concerned with how long his career is going to be, or I need to cash out now because I'm never getting another chance. This man is going to be in the league for 20 years, and he's going to have 2 or 3 more of these mega deals to negotiate in the future. I just wonder, and we'll see, does he take like a pay cut, lower salary per year? Does he load up the signing bonus? Does he stretch out the deal like we saw with Mahomes? Because I think whatever we see Burrow do, our heads are immediately going to turn to Herbert and be like, maybe he's going to do something similar and create a similar deal. I would love if news broke that Justin Herbert signed an 8-year deal tomorrow. I'll be very excited.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't obviously have no insight on what these guys would do. I hope that they do, and there is some sort of change as to what it could be. Because I think we get cheated a little bit out of seeing like great competition. Because the Chiefs are in a position where there's a legit dynasty that could happen right now. Because the one thing that you have to have is the right coach with the right quarterback, right? And then you get all of that together, you can win. There's always this thing where it's like, oh, you have to, your window to win a Super Bowl is on a rookie deal. Well, Tom won a bunch, not on a rookie deal. And Manning won Super Bowls, not on a rookie deal. And Breeze won a Super Bowl, not on a rookie deal. Like Roethlisberger won one of his Super Bowls, not on a rookie deal. I think, actually, I might need to fact check that. He might have won both of them in the first 5 years and then didn't win anything after the rookie deal.
Definitely went to one after the rookie deal for sure.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is like, it is possible to win after that. but you have to have that connection of coach and quarterback. And the Chiefs have that. So like we look at the Chiefs roster and we go, wait, who do they have at wide receiver? Like what's going, they have all these young guys around. It doesn't matter. The Chiefs, they're going to be fine. The Chiefs are going to win and they'll be just fine because we trust the two biggest operators in the organization, like for game effect, the head coach and the quarterback. It's like we all want that. We feel like as Chargers fans, the quarterback is there. Is Staley going to be that guy that gives you the same confidence? For me, I'm riding with Staley. I got you. I float this. Right now I'm on a high. Right now I'm on a high for Coach Staley. Let's go.
Kellen Moore 2024. That's all I'm gonna say. But I think I think that we're gonna see. I just lost my train of thought completely. I think we're gonna see some more quarterbacks go down a path where they're starting to look at the cap also, and that's becoming a part of how they negotiate their contracts and how they set up their contracts. If someone like Joe Burrow, we already saw Patrick Mahomes kind of succeed with it a little bit, but we see someone like Joe Burrow really find some success taking either a pay cut or making it a little bit more team friendly on them, or loading up the money in certain places so that way they have more cap space, whatever it might be. I wonder if the league's ever going to get to a point with these QB contracts when we get to 60, 65, 70. I mean, how far are we from a $70 million contract before 2030 or after 2030? I don't even know. Where the NFL only starts using a percentage of how much you have to pay your quarterback to keep them in town, or maybe a max cap hit for quarterbacks, because we're going to get to a point where quarterbacks are, I mean, how much are they? They're already taking a fifth or a fourth of the entire cap space if you have an elite quarterback. It's getting a little ridiculous. And I would like to see something to kind of relieve teams a little bit so that we do see that kind of competition factor. Because if teams could load up with some superstars, it's been proven that they will. And yeah, I know it's crazy to see some super teams in the league, but when there's 5 of them, it's really entertaining. It's really entertaining.
The league, I think, is in a really great, fun place right now. This is a lot of optimism, and there's a lot of really good football teams. Most of them happen to be in the AFC, but right now, just the way that the teams are forming, where you have the Eagles and the 49ers, and you have the Seahawks, on the cusp in that NFC, where I think you have really, really strong, well-rounded football teams. And the AFC, it looks like there's probably more like 5 or 6 of those teams. I will say the interesting thing, though, is if Joe Burrow sets a precedent, because you said by 2030, a $70 million contract. I mean, Caleb Williams will be up for a deal by then.
Yeah.
And it'll be $70 million. So like,
yeah,
it'll be insane. I would say it would be interesting to see what happens if Burrow takes that deal. Then do Higgins and Chase come back and say like, hey, we don't need to be the highest paid wide receiver. We're going to take similar looking deals when our time is up, where we're each going to sign for 4 years, whatever the going rate is. 4 years, 84 million. So it's 21 million a season. So they're still getting paid in the top 10 range, but they're not commanding that extra bit of money, whatever it is. Like, do they do that? Because if Burrow takes that discount, then does Jamar Chase go to the table and go, well, I know what Joe did, and he's the leader, and he can do that, but I am a receiver, and I might only get one bite at the apple. Yep. Then you got to look at it like that. Because, like I said at the beginning, Mike, I'm not going to blame any of these young people for getting paid as much. They have sacrificed so much stuff to be where they're at. So get as much money as you can. But I'm a fan of Joe Burrow looking and going, hey, I'm taking care of my guys because I want to win.
Yeah, you got to love that kind of mentality, and the team will rally around you. And we've seen it already with the Bengals. We forget this team was a 4-win team the year they drafted Joe Burrow, and it's been up since, obviously, other than the injury here. All right, let's go on to the next topic here. Speaking of some big paydays that some players have received in the past, Ezekiel Elliott is still a free agent. He is not on a team right now. They're saying that there's a crack in the door for him to return to Dallas. They're saying that there was some interest from Tampa, some interest from another team. The Chargers obviously have a lot of links to him through Kellen Moore and through a couple of the Cowboys staff members that we have. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is that the reports on him are very conflicting. There's clips coming out and some people saying that he's in the best shape of his life and he's about to have another 1,000-yard season, which, by the way, every single year that he's been in the league, all-purpose-wise, he has had 1,000 yards. And then there's others that are saying that executives in the NFL are out on Zeke completely, and they don't even think that he has enough gas to make it through another season in the NFL, which I think is crazy to say considering he just had 12 touchdowns a year ago. But, Tony, what's your thoughts on Zeke? How much do you think he has left in the tank? And I'll bring up some of these stats afterwards of what he did last year. But what's your thoughts on this?
If he wants to play, I hope he's in the league. Reports, what you look like in May don't really matter. Like, we've seen superior athletes. They have the right training, nutrition, and everything. Longevity-wise, letting your body get grossly out of shape and then trying to get it back into shape is not good. Like that would be bad for longevity. But for one season, could Zeke go be running on the beaches of Cabo and be in great shape by the first week in August to hit somebody's camp and provide impact on a football team this year? Absolutely. They just have to come to a right number. And I think the one thing that I'm realizing more and more about all of the stuff and all the reports that I see and all the conflicts in the reporting is that, like, look at the sourcing of it. Where's it coming from? A source from inside or a source close to this person. It's like they're not even anywhere in the ballpark of having to put their name on it. And I think organizations are getting smart and they're realizing everything's so cloudy and moves so fast with social media, Mike. They're like, well, we'll just put this out there and put the narrative on this person that they're out of shape or they're burnt or they're gassed or they're cashed or whatever you want to say about them, so that it starts to bring down sort of the value of whatever it is. But the teams are going to do their homework. They're going to have a bar set. This is what we can afford to spend. And it'll be a 1 year, $5 million, maybe some incentives in there, something like that. And Zeke could be on a roster.
Yeah, I could see him being on a roster as well. And that's a good point, that teams try and get ahead of the narrative. And who knows? Like, some teams are trying to lower his tag, or some teams are trying to get a bad rep on him, and they're out here saying that he's washed. He has no chance. And then his team is leaking that he's in the best shape of his life. Like, his personal media team is also leaking stuff to try and combat the other reports. Yeah, it's been conflicting. I do think Zeke is going to get signed by a team. I don't know where it's going to be. I think the most important thing for him is going to be his role. His role cannot be what it was in his prime, and everyone understands that now. Even Dallas did. They got Tony Pollard way more involved in recent years than it was when Tony Pollard first joined the team. His yards per carry did drop below 4 for the first time in his career. But again, I think that's just his role, short yardage, because the touchdowns are still there. He has 22 in the past 2 seasons. He's still an impact in the passing game, and I think that's the guarantee. That's what locks it in. Because you could talk about running the ball all you want. A lot of guys can put up the numbers Zeke did if they're in a certain position in a certain offense. But I think the biggest thing that he brings is pass protection and having steady hands out of the backfield. Like, he can come in and protect the quarterback and also be an outlet still as a check down. And I think that that's what kind of makes him still roster worthy, RB2 worthy, even if he signed with the Chargers. I mean, I wouldn't be excited if it was a big number, but like, if it's a contract like you're saying, 1 year, $5 million, that doesn't really hurt the cap at all. He's going to be off the books by next offseason. The Chargers need another guy just in the room. Even if we still use Josh Kelly in a heavy way, I would welcome Zeke to LA at this point in his career at the right price and at the right role. That's the biggest thing to me. We're not going to ask him to carry the ball even as much as he did in Dallas, I don't think.
I would personally like to see a little bit out of Isaiah Spiller, because I think that would crush the development of him for us, because I personally have belief that he can take a step if given the right opportunity. So I think that I don't love it, the fit for the Chargers, but I get it. Zero, I don't know if you're still here or not, but have a great day, buddy.
He's out of here. He said he's done. Anyways, since Zero's gone, maybe we should get off the Cowboys.
Yeah, he did say he thinks that Zeke has a lot left in the tank. That sounds like a Cowboys fan to me, who remembers the great days.
And Cowboys fan, that contract was ugly. We'll say it. But bring up the fact that Zeke was still a stud in his career when people roast you for that terrible contract. It's Jerry Jones going to pay a superstar that sells the most jerseys as much money as they demand. But you didn't get the return you wanted. You didn't get an all-time producer like the contract was that it was paid. But he had 10,000 yards. So, I mean, that's still exciting, and that's still a win. Zeke was still a great running back for the Dallas Cowboys.
To me, the best thing is for him to swallow his pride and go back to Dallas because he can be there and he's comfortable. He knows everything. And the Cowboys have a really good team. Like, he deserves to be on a team that has a chance to win. And I think that is has a good shot with the Cowboys. So I would go back there. I would mend fences and I would finish my career as a Dallas Cowboy if I were him.
That would be good for him. And the Cowboys will keep him around as like a legend. You know what I mean? They'll keep him in the fold after his career's over. Anyways, this is what the whole show is going to be about. So let's get to it here, Tony. We decided to each make a list of our favorite quarterbacks. Not the best quarterbacks in the league. It's our favorites to watch, our favorites to root for, our favorite quarterbacks in the NFL as of today. Tony, you want to go first or me?
I'll go first. I don't have any problem with that. I'm going to start. Let's start with number 4, and then at the end, I'll give. I have 2 honorable mentions.
Okay.
I just missed out. Number 4. Since the draft started, I was very excited, very intrigued about this one player, and the more stories that come out about him, this young man is just so tremendous, and I'm rooting for him. The backstory with the family. Anthony Richardson for the Colts. I know he hasn't taken a snap and we haven't seen him play professional football, but very exciting with the Florida Gators. I'm excited to see him. I hope and think that he will win the job day one, right? Bring him out there. You build an offense around him where it's very run heavy, some easy passes and some deep down the field shots. It'll be easy. So Anthony Richardson would be number 4. Number 3 is a guy that I had in my top 10 QBs last year when we did our list and everybody was laughing at me. All the mentions on IG and social media were crushing me for having Jalen Hurts in my top 10. Jalen Hurts is one of my favorite players, right? Like he's what I wished that I could have been as a little bit smaller, but still playing option, still have the ability to throw the ball all over the field. Like Jalen Hurts is one of my favorite players. I will always tune in and watch him play ball. Number 2, Mike, whoever is starting at quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons this season in 2023, that's who it is. Because 1, you know how much I love Taylor Heineke. I root for this young man everywhere he goes. He's so much fun. He's exciting. You never know what you're going to get. It could be an interception. It could be a touchdown pass. Who knows? And I have a lot of stock in Desmond Ridder. I think that he can be a really good quarterback. I think he's going to be the starter, and I think he's going to have a good year. He's got a great chance for success. That run game is your friend, and then you have good pass catchers in Drake London and Kyle Pitts. So, there's not much beyond that. But I think Desmond Ridder can succeed. And so really all I'm saying is who's ever starting, I will be rooting for at quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons because I'm a big fan of both of these 2 young men. And number 1, it's Justin Herbert. It doesn't matter. I watched a video the other day of Justin Herbert on a golf course, just swinging a golf club one hand because his doctor told him that after the labrum surgery, he couldn't. He's being interviewed, repping Callaway. And then all of a sudden I find myself online thinking, hey, I need some new irons. I should look at Callaway irons. They're good enough for Herbert. They've got to be good enough for me. So Herbert's exciting and fun. And obviously, bolt up. He's number 1. Prime time. Got to see it. Doesn't matter. And I honestly, I watched each game multiple times. One of my favorite things during the season that Mike and I started last year was getting together on Monday. He gets his situation squared away. I get the kids at school, and we sit down and we rewatch the Chargers games. And we get a little analytical and a little nerdy about stuff and angry. We talk about things we have no idea. We have no idea whether they're right or wrong, but we shout our speculations, and it's fun. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I really liked watching that Mike Williams pass interference 20 times over against the Browns last year. That one really ticked me off. But yeah, Herbert, Got to be number one, right? I mean, we're Chargers
Yeah.
fans. He's an exciting guy to watch. Did you see the newest video on him? It's really funny. The Chargers social media team posted it today, I think. They basically were like, because they heard that he was a fisherman, big into fishing, big.
Sure.
So they were asking him like pop quiz on some fish. And the first one was a salmon, and the second one was a dorado or mahi mahi. If you guys don't know what dorado is, the next one was a trout. And then they showed Nemo, and his whole demeanor changed because he was so geeked, excited to talk about fishing and talk about fish. When he realized that it was a joke, he immediately didn't care anymore. So he's like, that's a clownfish, but that's Nemo. And then they went to, I think, Aquaman. They put Aquaman on there. He's like, that's the guy from Game of Thrones. That's not a fish. So, Michael Phelps was on there too. You could tell he was like, I was super excited to talk about fishing with y'all, and then y'all immediately changed it.
Well, yeah, that's their job, is they have to get bits out that are entertaining that can go viral on the internet, and I love it. I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna look at it. 2 quick honorable mentions. Lamar Jackson, he's so exciting. It's so much fun, and I root for him, and I pray that he does throw for 6,000 yards this year. Like, that would be insane to see. And Kirk Cousins, you never know what you're going to get, and I'm always going to root for guys from Michigan. He played at MSU, Michigan State, go Sparty. I will root for Kirk Cousins until the wheels fall off. So
I dig it.
There it is.
I dig it. All right, I'm going to give you my list now, Tony. I want to say that Justin Herbert is obviously number one for me. So I'm going to leave him off my list just to give me an extra slot. So this is a non-Chargers top 4 quarterbacks for me. At number 4, I have Dak. I think that for some reason in my own brain, I gravitate towards players that are overhated. And I have to also think they're overhated, because if the hate seems to be justified, I'm in on it. Go ahead and hate on the player all you want. But I've always thought that Dak Prescott's hate solely stems from him wearing the star. Like, this guy has the best story to the league. He was an underdog basically his entire football career. He's thrown for 5,000 yards in the NFL. He's like one of 10 quarterbacks to do that. I know it's a new era, but that still impresses the hell out of me, out of a guy that probably wasn't expected to have the career he's already had in his career. He got the injury and then came back from the injury. I mean, there's just been so much in Dak Prescott's football career that he's overcame, that the way he is hated by the NFL fan base, it just irks me. I'm the same way with basketball too. Like, I'm wearing a Lakers jersey, but I've been a LeBron fan for years, and everyone hates LeBron. I don't know what it is. I'm a big Tom Brady fan growing up. Anyways, number 3, I got Justin Fields. When he first came into the league, I wasn't necessarily like low on him. I just wasn't as excited about him as other people on this show, especially Joe Morley. I wasn't as excited. But what he did last year in some of those plays, they were ridiculous. And I think it's a formula to just get your head knocked off one day. I think you got to reel that in a little bit. But he is going to reel that in. He is going to improve his passing, and he's going to be a scary, scary football player in the near future. At number 2, I have Joe Burrow, who's actually number 3. Just want to make sure everyone knows I have him 2 slots below Herbert. He's nowhere near Herbert. He's actually number 3, but he's number 2 on my non-Chargers list here. I just think he's a gamer, man. He's so entertaining to watch. And I made a decision 2 years ago that anyone against the Chiefs I would root for. And so multiple times now I've rooted for the Bengals to take down the Chiefs. And of course I rooted for them to take down the Raiders. That year they played them in the first round, and he succeeded with that and succeeded with taking down the Chiefs. So he made me a fan, Joe, even though we're supposed to be kind of rivals because of the Herbert Burrow thing. And then at number 1, someone that you mentioned, I have Lamar Jackson for obvious reasons. Very exciting player to watch. And for similar reasons of Justin Fields, I feel like any play, even if there's 3 guys standing right in front of him about to smack him, could be a touchdown. And that is just so exciting to watch, that at any moment it can happen, especially early in Lamar's career when people didn't really know what was about to happen. Defenders weren't approaching him with the same approach. They were coming up thinking they're going to lay out this guy. He's this tiny dude. Whoop! He just juked you out. You're done. And he's gone. Some honorable mentions for me also. Derek Carr, rooting for him now. Go Saints. Who dat? Gonna win the South. Trey Lance, because I was a big believer in the potential I saw from him in the limited amount of snaps in college. I still think that he has that potential if something can happen here and it can shift and he could find some success and continue to develop. But it's kind of been ruined. But I root for him a little bit. AR-15 for the same reasons that you brought Anthony Richardson up. And that's it. Trevor Lawrence. That's my list. Those are the honorable mentions.
Lawrence, Burrow, Mahomes, Allen. none of them will ever be on my favorite QB list. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're all in some way standing in my personal way of potential happiness. And I will not put them on any favorite to watch list. But I get what you're saying.
I like it. I like the Burrow. You could tell it's in the DNA. It's a different kind of football player.
It's in his Dana. Yeah. I get it. I totally get it. And if we were talking a top 4, who you think the best are, he would be on my list. Yeah. But we're not. We're talking about our favorites. Hey. Therefore, I will not put him on any list that has to do with favorite.
Yeah, we clearly aren't talking about our top 4 quarterbacks of all time. So before you go in the comments, because for some reason you skipped the intro to this topic, just know that Tony does not think that Taylor Heineke and Desmond Ridder are the second best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Just want to make sure everyone knows that.
Potentially the best duo of quarterbacks.
Here we go. No, we got Mad Max, Tony. It's Herbert and Mad Max. We're taking his nickname.
I mean, what are you going to say? Patrick Mahomes and anybody is better than those two together?
I guess. Anyways, that's our top 4 favorite quarterbacks to watch, everybody. Is that it, Tony?
That was my favorite meme that I ever put out there. I actually got the joke from somebody else, but it was like top running back duos, and it was like Derrick Henry and the Water Boy, like just the guy who was like putting Gatorade in his mouth. That one always made me laugh.
That's good.
No, I'm good. Just tell the podcast listening. The numbers have been going up. People are downloading, which is great and encouraging. But also come on over to YouTube. You can be live. You can be part of the conversation in the chat on a regular basis. Everybody enjoy your summer. Be safe. Make smart decisions. If you're graduating, congratulations. All that good stuff.
Yeah, and if you're over here on YouTube, you help us out a ton by liking the video and liking and checking out more videos. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always. Make sure you're subscribed with the notifications on. We say it a million times, I know, but you'd be shocked by how many reminders are needed for people to actually hit the button. Again, we appreciate everyone tuning in. Root for our Lakers this weekend, even though you probably hate the Lakers. Just do it for us. We need the support, clearly. We'll catch you guys next time. We're live here on MJT. And we will not be talking Raiders, Joe. We're going to save that for the next time you're missing.